So this is the Cordillera del Cóndor in southeastern Ecuador. And this is a open cast copper, gold, and molybdenum mine, which is potentially going to devastate the area. So here we've got a schematic here showing the tailings dams. The problem here are the tailings dams. Here is one here, and on my next slide, here we have a second dam. You can see the first tailings dam here. It's called the Kimi Dam. Here's the second dam with the dam itself is going to be here. This will be 63 meters high. This will be 270 meters high. The highest tailings dam ever built in the world. I've got here a map showing the damage which will be caused when these dams break. We have raised a case in the Constitutional Court of Ecuador using the rights of nature, and our expert, who is Steve Emmerman, who's been checking this out for some time, about the last 10 years. He estimates that these dams will inevitably collapse, and the first tsunami of toxic waste will kill all life in the rivers flowing down here in the initial surge of 350 kilometers. Here I have a slide showing actually what this means. Here we have a larger map. We go into the river Marathon, and then this flows into the Amazon River itself. This is the first tide of inevitable and irredeemable destruction of river systems. The secondary waters will go at least twice as far. They'll be here. They'll be flowing down through a runoff of something like 2 to 3 tons per square meter falling on these mountains, washing through these river valleys and washing this toxic waste down into these rivers with heavy metals, arsenic, cadmium, mercury, killing and causing a biodiversity accumulation and a slow cancerous death of everything in its path. This is fairly heavy duty. This is a picture taken in 2018 of the dike, the first part of the building of the Kimi Dam, which is due to be 63 meters high. Here's a closer picture of this. This is being built at, in Steve Emmerman's words, at the angle of, at a critical angle, an angle of criticality, and it will collapse as soon as it is filled with tailings. The construction is earth and stone. The critical angle is 1 meter horizontal to 1 meter vertical. This is very much, and so this just gives you a bit of a schematic on how this dam building works. So we've got what's called an upstream method here, where this is the line of the dam. This is a 45-degree angle, which is the critical angle. And then each level, this is a new level, for instance, is built on tailings here. The tailings which are going to be put in these dams are not as dry as they need to be to ensure the structural integrity of the dam. And so what will happen is that we'll get what's called piping running through here, which will come up to the side of the dam, and the dam will collapse. And in Steve's words, if this design is continued to be used and dam building continues, a mouse sneeze, in his words, will cause this dam to break. This is a picture of the river valley where the bigger dam, remember I talked about about that smaller dam in terms of coming across the valley. This should be 260 meters high, and this will inundate this whole area running behind here. This is being built at an angle of 1.5 horizontal to 1 vertical, remembering this is the highest dam in the world, and this dam will inevitably collapse through excess water running down, through landslides. You can see how this land slips here. Now it slips here, which will cause overtopping of the dam, through internal erosion or through earthquake. It's susceptible to all forms of tailings dam collapse. And this dam will produce 94 million tons of toxic waste, which will form a tsunami running down those river valleys, which I showed you. This is a schematic of this Dene dam. So 260 meters high, once again, working on this upstream type of construction, which is cheaper. We have less solid material, and it is illegal now in Brazil after the last dam collapse, and it is illegal in Chile because bottom line is they are dangerous. So we have here the statistic. Dene Dam, 260 meters high, containing 390,000 million cubic meters of toxic waste. An estimated spill would be 94 million cubic meters, traveling in a tsunami of poison for 350 kilometers. This will be the biggest tailings dam break in the history of tailings dams. The last biggest one was the Fundão Dam in 2015. And that was 34 million tons. So we're looking here at a disaster on a scale that has never been seen before. We talk about extreme risk. The category of risk includes the probable deaths of more than 100 people, the large loss of critical fish habitat, and the impossibility of restoration or compensation in kind. So this is the end of Steve's summary. The failure of the tailings dams in the Mirador mine is inevitable, and the consequences will be extreme. Once again, I just bring to your attention, here is this is the River Zamora running into the River Santiago, into this main tributary of the River Amazon, going directly down into the River Amazon. I just put this here because this is the case which we've put together. And therefore, myself as a British citizen, my passport expert in the United Nations, and we are asking for an injunction to stop the building of these dams because the situation is critical, immediate, and must be stopped now. To give you an idea of the size of the case, well, in terms of pages, it's 36 pages, and we are using directly the rights of nature as written in the Constitution of Ecuador, and we will be the first case which will clearly define the precautionary principle. So in this case, we do have some leverage. We have got some leverage, and this case is now pending in the Ecuadorian Constitutional Court. We can't call it ecocide. We have to work with the existing constitution and get that constitution codified in order to get an injunction on those tailings dams so that we avoid what is potentially the greatest disaster that will ever have been seen in terms of tailings dam destruction and destruction of the upper Amazon basin and its biodiversity. Okay, so that's a quick talk on the Mirador mine. Okay, any comments, any questions?
Are any of the, this is Peter Brown, are any of those companies doing the mining, or are any of them Canadian?
Okay, it's one company, it's a Chinese company, it's Chinese Railways and Tongling Construction. They're national Chinese companies. They've so far invested $1.2 billion, and they look to extract $220 billion. And the money from this mine comes to pay off the national debt owed to the Chinese by Ecuador.
Okay, thank you.
David,
Yeah.
I'm just curious, would you mind to tell us a little bit about the process of when you bring a case to the Ecuadorian Constitutional Court? What's that like? What's the time frame?
Yeah, okay. I'll give you a little bit of a history of this. I know Julio Prieto since about 2012, and I met him last year at an international symposium for the rights of nature in Quito. And then I met him in the United Nations in New York, because I get kind of invited to General Assembly as being part of this UN group. And also Julio was interested in this case here. So we were in communication quite a lot. I said, hey, Julio, is there any way we can bring this case, can we create a case around this Mirador mine? So he looked at it, scratched his head a bit and said, you know, I think we can. I think it's under rights of nature. Now, he wrote the book to the Constitutional Court explaining how to codify rights of nature. So he's very definitely our man. And he also worked on the Chevron case with Pablo Fajardo, who is also our lawyer, who took Chevron for $18 billion, which they have not paid. So we have two strong lawyers, which is essential. And I was able to bring the case because under the Ecuadorian Constitution, any member of the human race has a duty to protect nature. So we put it together. I was able to bankroll it. But this is the most difficult thing, is bankrolling. If there's no money, we cannot get things moving. But as luck would have it, I had enough money in my bank. I'm now empty to be able to start this case. So starting a case, number one, we need to find a good lawyer. Number two, we need to be very clear about the constitutional concepts as laid down in Ecuadorian constitution. And off we go. And so we have off we've gone. Does, okay.
Thank you.
This seems to be a case where you need good lawyers, but also some pretty good technical experts, because I assume the Chinese company and whoever, and if they've got an engineering firm, are saying, well, you're completely wrong about the critical angle and all that. This is proven technology. This is the most environmental tailings pond construction ever done, and it will last forever. I mean, I assume.
Right.
It seems it's very interesting as a Ecocide case because it's really all about risk.
Well, we're talking about under the Canadian Dam Association, this dam represents extreme risk. Under the Canadian Dam Association criteria, we have low risk, medium risk, high risk, and the highest risk is extreme risk. This fits the criteria of extreme risk under the Canadian Dam Association. Steve Emmerman, who is our main expert, is vice chairman of the Worldwide Tailings Dams Failure Board. So he is the man who writes articles, gets interviewed by the Wall Street Journal and so on after this last dam break in Brazil. He is a world expert, acknowledged, known, and it is, you are quite right, it is essential to have good expertise. We also, yes?
Oh, just when you, in terms of answering this, I was wondering if you could also discuss whether the court will have its own independent experts on that issue, because that seems to be the fact finding there is going to be very important.
It's going to be up to the Chinese company. It's going to be up to the Chinese National Railways and Tongling Construction in order to bring their witnesses to counter our findings. Our findings are pure engineering. They're absolutely pure engineering, and that's it. You know, it's just that. It's what's called data. It's accepted engineering data. These dams will break. Inevitable.
Okay, it's just to close off that point, and then I'll move on, or I'll stop. But just that some courts, in very technical cases like this, engage their own expert. So they have the parties each have their experts, but in order for the judges who are not necessarily experts, well, typically are not, they will have their own technical experts. I just was wondering if that's something that's possible in this legal system.
Well, that's a fair point. Also, we need to take into account, rather similar to the Texaco case and the Chevron case, Ecuador had no experience of oil exploration, which resulted in 18 billion gallons of toxic waste in the Amazon and northeastern Amazon and the destruction there. In this case, Ecuador has no experience of mega mining. This is the first giant scale mega mine ever under construction in Ecuador. So They have no experts. They have no expertise. It's never been done before.
He mentioned something about the Shuar. So is the Shuar tribal going to be affected if that happens?
Yes, they will be. There are 70 villages in the immediate area of the dam. The small village of Tundini is underneath this 260-meter high dam. They will be destroyed. The communities will be wiped out. There will be more than 100 deaths.
I mean, if you try to imagine the scale of the disaster, it's like, I don't know, you need new words to describe it.
I know, that's my difficulty.
It's overwhelming. It's overwhelming. And I just wanted to really thank you for sharing this information with us. I was not aware about this case being in play. And I think it's for many of us who are interested in questions of law and ecology, I think it's a very important opportunity to learn about these efforts. And so I just wanted to thank you for sharing this with us. This information is very important, very crucial for our learning, but also, at least in my case, like invite me to come up with new language to make sense of the extent of destruction and hope, I hope, at some point in thinking about this. You know, it's very sad. It's very sad and, yeah, depressing, but also, and this is just a personal note because, I mean, I think we need to share also those stories. And personally, because I work in the Amazon, actually along the lines of the Putumayo River, knowing about how this waste might be going through the Marañón and then up to the Putumayo, it's affecting directly people that I care about. So I think the personal connection to cases, to the law, also matters to foster change. So thank you for this.
Thank you. Yeah. Also, I was asked to start to work on this by shaman from the Shuar. We've had shaman from the Shuar visiting my home here since the turn of the century. And in 2012, and also I've been out to Ecuador, stayed with my friends in Ecuador, in the Shuar. And in 2012, I spent 3 months in the jungle and also up and down to Quito to see exactly what was happening. And this, therefore, I am passionate about both this case in Ecuador and this case here, because in both cases, these are my friends. And if I can do anything to help my friends and also the environment, then I'm passionate about it. And I think this is what is necessary in all ecological work, is to be passionate. If we don't have passion, we are not going to get very far. And when we see a case like this Mirador Mine case, you're absolutely right. It's about wording it. I don't know if you read the article I wrote for The Ecologist. I worked with Nick Manon on that one. He's good. And so to look for resonance with the people, look and see, because we don't have a chip in the head to understand the largeness of this. You've got it because you're familiar. And thank you for that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, David. I want to echo what Ivan said so poetically, that we really appreciate you sharing the hard work and the commitment you have to these places, and really wishing you all the best. We say in French, courage. I don't know what you say in Spanish.
Adelante.
Adelante?
Mm-hmm.
Adelante.
Adelante.
Yeah.
So,
I'd like to say something too before we break off. Okay, yeah, just it's exemplary work. It's so moving and so thorough, and it sets a high bar for all of us who love this planet and care deeply about it as you do.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. And it's been a pleasure being with you, and thank you guys.
So